Hey, welcome back to Album April. It's April 28th, and today I listen to Parallel Lines by Blondie. I think Blondie has gone down in history as being one of the band's most instrumental in the new wave boom of the early 80s. But besides new wave, there are a bunch of other genres associated with Blondie, like rap, disco, reggae. Blondie had a lot of success in the UK and Australia with their first two albums, but it wasn't until their third album when they reached international success, including the US. That was this album, Parallel Lines, and it has some of their more iconic songs like Heart of Glass or One Way or Another. And 1 year later, they made Call Me, and they became a household name. One thing I was not expecting when doing some research for this album was apparently Blondie is very hard to work with, like as a band. Or at least they were when they were recording Parallel Lines. This album's one producer, Mike Chapman, has said in interviews that it was not fun recording this album. The band members didn't get along with each other very well. They didn't really get along with him. It was their first time working with him as a producer. And even though they were talented songwriters, a lot of them weren't actually very good at playing their instruments. This led to Mike Chapman calling for a lot of re-recordings because he wanted it to sound perfect, and the band didn't take too kindly to that. There was apparently a point where the bassist literally threw a synthesizer at him. But while it did pan out eventually when it comes to critics at the time, what did I think? I mean, this album was okay. I was actually expecting to like it more. I didn't really like the way that the album was mixed. There was this one cymbal, I'm pretty sure it was the ride cymbal. It was used a lot, and whenever it was used, it was basically 50% of what I could hear. I'd say that all the songs in this album are okay, but none of them really had like that it factor for me. In my opinion, Call Me was better than any of the songs on Parallel Lines. One Way or Another has always been interesting to me because if you just look at the lyrics, this song is very threatening. It's sort of like Every Breath You Take, but instead of pushing the creepiness out to the forefront, they sort of try to play it off as kind of lighthearted. But the inspiration for this song was about a stalking ex-boyfriend that the lead singer Deborah Harry had. Though I do think that they sort of alleviated that at the end by ending it with One Way or Another, I'm Gonna Lose You. Heart of Glass ended up being the most successful single from Parallel Lines, and it does have a lot of really good moments in it. This is definitely the most disco of the Blondie songs I've heard. And while I was listening to the song on Spotify, I had the Spotify lyrics right in front of me, and they apparently got like the last part wrong because it said he had a heart of glass, but in the last chorus she actually says he was a pain in the ass. So that was unexpected, yet entertaining. It was also very interesting because there was a point in the middle of the song, the entire thing is in 4/4, except this one part where every other measure is only 3 beats, so the phrases keep coming in groups of 7 beats. It's very difficult to make 7-beat phrases sound like they flow naturally, and in this one they actually use that to make it more surprising and attention-catching. Aside from the staples from this album, there were a few hidden gems on it. I liked 11:59, Will Anything Happen? My favorite song on the album was probably Fade Away and Radiate. That song has one of the most epic intros I've ever heard. Honestly, way more epic than the rest of the song even warrants. The album closed with Just Go Away, which I think was a pretty good way to wrap up the album because it sort of encapsulates the personality the band had displayed throughout it. Overall, I didn't think that Parallel Lines was a great album, but it was definitely a solid album. And the band would go on to have several more years to become more polished and explore new genres. And the band would be humongously influential. I remember when I was doing research for No Doubt when I was listening to Tragic Kingdom, I realized that they did take a lot of their cues from Blondie. So I guess while I didn't love the album, I could definitely appreciate it for what it represents. Alright, thank you for listening. I'll see you tomorrow.